Reclaim ground media, we're taking back the sound, lifting up the truth until the walls come down. Voices for the kingdom, hope in every town. This is where the lost get found. On reclaim ground.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Reclaim Ground Media. Massive trigger warning for tonight's episode. We're going to be talking about a topic that hits kind of hard. We're going to be talking about addiction. And in order to talk about addiction, we have lined up an amazing panel tonight. We are going to have former addicts who are going to be telling you their story and how they overcame. We're going to be talking to a senator who has a lot to say about the topic of addiction. We will be talking to one of the most successful programs in the state of Delaware for recovery. And at the very end, certainly last but not least, we will have a former addict who has completely turned his life around and done something so amazing and positive with it. Tonight, we are going to be joined by our producer, who's going to come from behind the camera for us and kind of give us his testimony as well. Brian, I'm so excited for the show tonight and everybody we're going to have on.
Oh my goodness, it is going to be a very exciting night. As you said, a warning for everyone. There are probably going to be some deep emotions tonight as people go through their stories, as they go through their testimonies. And as many of our viewers know, this is been a big business in Delaware as well. From the opioid settlement here in Delaware, we will receive 2.5 million, or excuse me, we'll receive over $350 million in 2000 from now to 2035. So a lot of money coming in from the settlement money, and what's going to be done about it? Where is that money going to be used? There's been over $14 million already spent in that opioid settlement money. There's already been audits from the state auditor about the nonprofits that have received that money and saying that it's not reaching the people it needs to. So there's a lot to work on, and we tonight want to focus first and foremost on the people who have taken the steps, have said, I want something better for my life, have taken that initiative to say there is a higher purpose for me, and we want to talk with them first and then get down to what can we do to help others reclaim their own life, just like the ones that we have on here tonight and the many others throughout Delaware and throughout our nation who have taken that opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. And I think that tonight, I know we just got a little tidbit on them when we were talking to our guests before they come on, but I really think the stories that people are going to hear is really going to make them understand the seriousness and the severity of addiction. Addiction doesn't discriminate. Addiction can touch any household at any time, and it is a demon. And once you have that demon, fighting it becomes even harder. And luckily and thankfully, we saw these wonderful people here tonight that can give their testimony. And hopefully their testimony does help somebody else, whether it's somebody in active addiction themselves or a parent or a loved one of somebody who needs to kind of figure out how to navigate those waters and see that there is a bright side at the end of it.
And exactly, we want to make sure that people, when we talk about addiction, that we're not talking about numbers, we're not talking about statistics, but we want to talk what's behind that every single number, every single statistic is a person's life. And that person's life impacts everyone around them and goes so much further. So at the end of tonight, we're also going to lean into some resources that already exist in Delaware, including Adult and Teen Challenge, also some state resources that already exist. Say, hey, we need you now. Don't give up. If you're wondering if there is something for you, there is something higher. There's a higher calling on your life. And we want these testimonies to allow you to see what that is for you.
Absolutely. You have a purpose. And even if this is the hardest season in your life that you faced thus far, there is sunshine at the end of it. It's a fight. It certainly is. And nobody will ever diminish that. But there is a higher purpose for you. Greg, if you could come on now, we would love to talk to you and just kind of hear your story. I know that the opioid epidemic or legal addiction, as we've been calling it, has really affected your life.
Yeah, so I was first introduced to the loss of a friend in high school. I played in bands in and out, and I went to Salesianum, where you would think that it's there's not drugs here. There's no one doing anything wrong. But quite honestly, it doesn't discriminate against, what your income level is or what type of family you grew up in. So I've learned a lot of lessons. The shirt that I'm wearing tonight is actually my friend Pat's, and I actually I have the obituary that I always have on my wall. Is one of my friends that I lost. He was a heroin addict for many years, had cleaned up many times. Ultimately, one of the things I want to talk to people about a little bit tonight is that addiction, it's not just overdoses. It's families that are impacted. It's unfortunately mental health crisis for the children that have parents that are involved. It is parents that have many issues that they're dealing with as well, with teenagers and loved ones that are being impacted. And I've seen this a lot. I worked as a youth minister. I've worked as a high school teacher, a grade school teacher. And there's some things that I wanted to share with your audience tonight that I'm not sure that they know and are aware of. And so I've created a one-pager and an action plan for everybody. And if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about that, Katie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Actually, I'm going to bring this up for everybody. You might not be able to see it, but it is on Katie's page, Brian, and mine. So one of the things that people should know is there's really early exposure. When I talk to high school kids and being a high school teacher, they often tell me that they were first exposed to drugs by the age of 10. That's fifth grade, fifth grade. And if you're talking to a 10-year-old, you think of them in innocent terms. I mean, some of these kids, their voices haven't changed, right? And so I was like, this can't be right. So I started looking into everything. The national data is backing it up. The CDC is reporting 1 in 5 middle schoolers say they've been offered drugs. And the average age of the first drug experimentation in the United States is 10 to 12 years old. So if you're a parent with a child in this age range, the landscape has changed. You need to pay attention. The other thing I see as a high school teacher is the whole marijuana conversation is completely different than when I was growing up or even when I first got into education teaching. Today's kids, they got edibles, they got drinks, the gummies, they got the vape pens. We see Delta 8, Delta 9 synthetic blends that are being sold at gas stations and shops legally. They're packaged like snacks. They smell like candy. Most people will never even notice that their kid has these things because they can be lookalikes.
Yeah.
And in 2023, the FDA actually issued multiple warnings for families because children were ending up in emergency rooms. I can tell you, I've had children that I've taught that have wound up in the emergency room because they're consuming these unregulated products. They have no idea what the strength is. And before they know it, they're paranoid and thinking they're about to die.
Yeah.
Heroin and opioids. We don't nearly talk about this enough in Delaware. Delaware is ranked in the top 5 states in overdose deaths per capita.
Top
You look at
5.
top 5. Look at fentanyl. It's responsible for 80% of the fatalities in recent years here in Delaware. And I was wondering, why does that take place? Why do people get addicted? Because I have so many good friends that we laughed and we had great times. And there's some common themes that I've noticed, and there's now studies that are starting to back this up. And as we hear from guests tonight, I'd love to hear if this is kind of related in their own lives. Depression, loneliness, anxiety were the strongest predictors of addiction in young people. And these issues have actually spiked since the pandemic in 2020. 40% of teens now in high schools are reporting sadness and hopelessness in numbers that have never been seen before. Suicides skyrocketed during the pandemic and continue on. Yeah. So what we notice is when the emotional pain gets to an untreated state, substances become the coping skills for teenagers especially. And then the last part is we're a corridor state. What that means, I-95 is running from Florida, New York City, all the drugs are running through Wilmington. It's one of the biggest drug trafficking highways on the East Coast. And the DEA has data that shows that has increased the regional access here in Delaware, the heroin, fentanyl, and counterfeit pills that look like Adderall and Xanax, but they actually have lethal fentanyl doses. And so that is big. And I think we're going to talk tonight. I had several friends that got addicted to the opioids legally from doctors. Now, we've had several arrests, convictions here in Delaware. We'll talk about those cases a little bit later. Hopefully, we're starting to see the doctors and this whole thing's being a bit more regulated. But I wanted to give every parent, in my time here tonight, something to think about. I want to go with a Delaware Parent Action Plan. These are the ways that we can hopefully detect what's going on. If you have a young one, a teenager, a middle schooler, and their mood starts changing and you don't know why, or all of a sudden they're doing things in secrecy. There's a new friend that's hanging around and maybe you just don't feel good about that new friend. I always say to my daughter and my son, people want you to consent to their poor behavior and their poor decisions. Because if you consent to someone else's poor decision and you take that as well, it makes them feel like they've been validated about the choice that they've made. So I often will say, engage daily with your kids and have that conversation that, we raised you to stay away from this because we love you and we don't want you consenting to poor choices. Have that conversation, 5 minutes. Average parent doesn't even spend more than 5 minutes in non-directive communication with their teenagers right now. But have that conversation now. It's much more prevention than you would think. L would be limit access, lock up the alcohol at your home, lock up your prescriptions. Your kids know where they are if they see you taking them. Your vapes, know what's in your house. Ask direct questions. Kids will rarely volunteer the truth, but they will always answer you honestly, from what I can tell. Kids are really good at responding once you call them out. Watch their world. The social media right now. Instagram, most of these kids don't have profiles. They have stories going on and things go by so fast the parents miss it. Snapchat, those apps, the group chats, the gaming friends. It is your phone. You're paying the bill. Don't be afraid to protect your child and look at that. And then a big one, address mental health. I was talking about how we're seeing increases in high school and middle schools, kids with suicide attempts and kids that have been successful in suicide. Depression and anxiety are fuel for substance use. Please, please address the mental health when you can. R would be reach out for support, schools, counselors, recovery groups. Don't wait until you have a crisis. And my E would be establish routines. Kids with structure are far less likely to experiment. So play that soccer game, play that baseball game, get involved in chess club, get involved in anything at school, because your involvement and our presence for teenagers and for each other is the most protective factor that we're going to have if we want a safer Delaware and safer families.
Another thing I want to touch on, I know you briefly touched on about locking up the liquor cabinet. Over the summer, when I first started becoming very active on social media, I had a parent from volleyball come up to me and ask that I do something or put something out on the alcohol problem within high schools and with teenagers, because right now it's just a normal thing. It's a normal part of life. When we were in high school, if we were going to go to a party and drink, we had to sneak away to do it. It's not like that anymore. And the normalization of that, while, I don't want to get into parents' household decisions or anything like that, the normalization of that is carrying over past those little times that these kids are given permission to. And I've had some parents talk to me about how they're finding alcohol in their kids' rooms. And it really affects them. And their brains are at a time where they're still processing, still developing. And it's not like you or I having alcohol. And same thing with the marijuana. When you talk about that, it's one thing when you're talking about it in adults. It's another thing when you're talking about it in children. Their brains are still developing. It takes a much different toll on them. And I think things that have gone very overlooked that are seriously contributing to a lot of problems, especially problems in the schools.
Yeah. Greg, I really enjoyed that list that you put up with the acronym for Delaware, because I think it not only when you're dealing with a situation that may arise, but just in general, it really builds those things that you put there, really build a healthy family lifestyle in general, and really can add to communication. And that's what's key, because you want to prevent things from happening, but as these things and the kids, as their world starts to influence them more than their world at home, when they go to school, when they see friends, that communication, that trust need to be there, so they feel like they can have those conversations with or when you ask them questions, that they feel that response and that you have their best interest at heart. So that really builds that foundation for when they're going to be introduced to them. You are able to build that relationship and continue that relationship with them, because you've built it all along.
Yeah, courageous conversations. It's one of the hardest things we have to learn as adults. But we've got to talk direct, not just to one another as adults, but we got to talk direct to our children too.
As uncomfortable as it may
Yep.
be, it's very, very important, and it can save a life, especially when you're talking about these topics.
Yeah, very true.
Yep.
Well, Greg, thank you for sharing that. I'll share that acronym graphic on my page. So if any of our audience wants to reference that or just kind of have those tools to reference, so when they do talk to their kids, or maybe they're seeing some differences in their kids' friends or even the kid themselves, they can kind of look at that and reference back. That was a great graphic. And the word Delaware, it's going to make it stick too.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to a great show tonight. Thanks for having me on here at the top.
Yeah.
I'm going to back out and continue the produce from the background.
All right, Greg, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you in the background too. Greg, while you're in the background, I did get a notification saying that it's not, our destinations aren't connected on mine and your page. So if you can take a look at that maybe.
Yeah, we're having some problems with Facebook tonight, everybody, but we will reshare some streams and I'll continue working on it.
Absolutely. And do we have Kristen ready to go? Guys, I'm so excited.
Yes, Kristen's in and ready to go.
Amazing. You guys, I am so excited to welcome Kristen to this podcast, to this stream tonight. I know Kristen in my personal life. She's a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine. She's an amazing human being, amazing mother, and has an amazing testimony to what life is really like. Kristen, blow my audience away right now. I'm so thankful that you're on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm thankful to be here too. I've shared my story in written form, but not as much publicly, speaking about it. And so it's really healing to be able to do that and sort of share my past history here. I'm hearing a little feedback. Is that me, or do you hear like buzzing, or no? Maybe that's better.
That's why Greg's here.
We got to keep Katie muted, every now and then, just keep her quiet. But I guess I'll give a little background on my story. I mean, I'll kind of tell you where I am today. I am over 20 years clean and sober and, not participating in any drugs by a miracle of God. But it's funny that Greg mentioned depression, anxiety, all of that stuff from an early age. I mean, from 10 to 13, I actually had several suicide attempts, which is like crazy to think of now. I have 4 children myself who range in age from 9 to 21. And so to think of them going through the things and the thoughts that I had, but so I went through that. And then at age 14, I actually started doing cocaine. I was introduced at high school. I was the new girl in the high school, didn't really have a place, didn't have a set group of friends, met a friend and she's like, hey, try this. And, it just seemed like something that I would try. Like, why not? Escape my reality anyway. Clearly was dealing with depression, anxiety, and wanted to fit in. I did that pretty intensely. I mean, it went from 0 to 100 very quickly. I'm talking daily usage, cutting school every single day, almost failed out, of freshman year of high school. I somehow managed to get back on track. Actually, the person that was supplying the drugs to her was locked up and put in jail. And so thankfully I had no way to get it. I wasn't sort of out there seeking it, and I had a couple years clean until, again, I was going through depression. I had never really healed that or done anything to resolve that. And started using cocaine again, was introduced, and then quickly became an IV drug user, which was one of my rules, right? That I was like, I would never do that. That's like another level. And again, I was in this place where it was happening and someone was like, hey, why don't you try it this way? It's a better way to get high, and it's, it lasts longer and all of these things. And again, it was like, my entire life was plummeted. It got so intense to, again, that daily usage. Out of college at that point, I was homeless. I was living in my car. And then I ended up actually moving in with the people that I was doing drugs with, because I just kind of came and never left. And again, thankfully, I found out very early in my pregnancy that I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. And I kind of had a feeling that something was going on, because at the time I was smoking cigarettes, I'm doing all the things. And so I took a pregnancy test, and I feel extremely lucky and grateful that the moment I found out I was pregnant, I was able to stop. And I think for a lot of people that doesn't happen. It wasn't a willpower thing for me. It wasn't, that I'm anything better than anyone else, but it was truly that I did not care about myself at all. But the fact that I had another human being that I was now responsible for was so important to me that I was able to start taking those steps to remove myself from that situation. And I know for me, the thing that probably helped the most that I know everyone cannot do, but I left the state. So, all those places, all those people, all those triggers were gone for me. I don't go back there. I don't have a need to go back there. So it was not easy by any means, but I did not actually go to treatment. I did go through counseling, but I literally just stopped and was growing a baby. And so I'm now here today. I have 4 amazing children. I have 2 graduate degrees. We do get better, we can recover, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot of support, a lot of self-healing, and really seeing like what led you to those decisions. And again, something that Greg mentioned of like keeping your kids active and busy. And I see that with my teenagers where, one of my teenagers was like, yeah, I'm not going to do sports this next semester. And I was like, no, you're going to do something. You're going to do a sport. And she's like, why? I said, because kids who are not involved in activities do drugs. And that's what I did. Right. Like and like, I quite frankly said it to her in that way. And I meant it to be blunt. And that's not every kid, there's differences, but I do think keeping them involved is really helpful. So yeah, that's kind of my rundown.
Kristen, thank you for sharing that with us. I immediately thought of a question because I have kids. They're younger than yours. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. But how do you and how do you share your stories and your experience, especially with at the different age groups that you have, in order to tell them and prepare them and help them for maybe the road that they have ahead?
Yeah. And it's hard, right? Because as a child, they're always like, oh, you don't understand. You've never been through that. And I'm like, I've been through it. I can tell you. I mean, I think as they ask questions, I answer them. And that's when I feel it's sort of most appropriate, or as situations are coming up. It's a little harder because the 9-year-old is around the older kids. And so she's naturally going to ask questions sooner than I think a typical 9-year-old would. But we do have those conversations in our household. I'm not afraid to say what happened to me and where it came from. And I hope that they look to me as someone that they could trust and do realize, oh, mom does understand, and I'm not naive to the fact that my kids could still try something, that we do this as young adults. And I, again, just hope that they trust me enough to say, hey, this is a problem, or hey, someone introduced this. And again, back to Greg's point, it's just having those conversations with your kids, which are uncomfortable. Like no one, because you kind of like don't want to know. It's like you just want to cover your ears, but we're their safe space, and we have to be the ones to kind of lead them, or somebody else will.
Kristen, in your book that you wrote, Kristen wrote a memoir of her experience and her journey with addiction. There's one excerpt that I want to ask you to kind of recant the story of. It's when you found yourself, I believe it was on a school field trip in DC. Am I remembering that correctly?
I don't know if tell me more about the question.
It was something about when you were in a hotel, you were on a school field trip. It was when you were in the throes of addiction and just dealing with the depression. I think I'm remembering this correctly. And it was just something very briefly you covered in your book about your experience there. And I'm getting to that because I'm wondering, did anybody other than your inner circle that knew you were doing these things, did they know anything was going on with you?
No, I mean, my parents have their own things going on, right? And so there wasn't a lot of that attention for them to realize. There was a point where my mom gathered my whole family. And at this point, I was 18. I was living in that drug house. they showed up, which I didn't even know she knew where I was. She tracked me down. I think the police officers used to kind of like keep an eye on us, like just, kind of make sure we're okay. And so she had tracked me down and they were like, listen, you're coming home. Like we're taking, it's time. And I almost went and I didn't. I mean, it had to be heartbreaking. But I went back in the house and that was it. It was another several months. But yeah, I don't think anyone knew because I didn't talk to anyone else but those people that I was dealing with. And even my mom, and I would call her and be like, oh, I'm on my way to come visit. And I just wouldn't show up. I mean, I wouldn't check her voicemails. I wouldn't answer texts. I literally secluded myself, isolated from everyone. And honestly, I didn't care if I lived or died. It was just going to be what it was going to be. So, yeah, it's kind of messy.
It's messy, but look where you are now.
I know.
Can you talk about your book? Because I know there are so many people out there. It is a fantastic read.
Yeah, I would say honestly, if my children have access to the book, one of them is reading it. I think it starts when I was 13, so it's written like diary entries from the perspective of me at my age, and so a child who's 13 would be able to relate to it and to the stories. It just kind of goes through all the throes of in and out of addiction and depression and issues with your parents and with relationships. It touches on all of those things I think we experience as adolescents, even into early adulthood. So I would encourage people, even if you haven't suffered from addiction yourself, but you have family members, I hope that it sort of gives insight into the mindset of a person. Because a lot of people are like, oh, they're being selfish, things like that. And it's not. I think most of the time you just don't care about yourself at all. You're not thinking about it.
All the things in the book that led you to that place, they're all so relatable. But by you sharing the journey of what you went through while dealing with that could save somebody else from, it could serve as a cautionary tale, or it saves somebody else from going down those same avenues to deal with those things that everybody is feeling and dealing with, especially at that age.
Yeah. The book is called Caring About Crystal. If anyone wants to go find it and take a look, I would love, I love to hear the feedback and the stories from other people. So, thanks.
There it is. There it is. We'll put it in the show notes too. So anybody that's looking for it, that maybe wants to get it as a gift this Christmas, or just wants to get it for themselves to read and maybe see some warning signs from their child themselves, can go pick up a copy of it. It's an excellent price. It's a great read. And it's written by somebody right here in our own hometown. So absolutely support somebody right here.
Thank you so much.
Kristen, thank you so much for being on tonight and sharing your story. I know you said this was the first time you talked about it outside of writing, which you are so good at. And we genuinely appreciate you being brave and coming on to talk and tell everybody else about what you went through.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye. Wow, that was quite the testimony. I mean, that's so young to start and to deal with so much, but still come out. Like I said, she overcame. She's not only now just a fantastic person, she's a fantastic mom. I get to interact with her all the time. Our kids go to school with one another, and I get to see this side of her. And it's just so hard to believe, seeing the person she is now, that she was at one time feeling that way and battling it. And I hope that other people that are suffering from this right now can see exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You do have a purpose.
Yeah. The little snippet that broke my heart is when she said her parents showed up at the door, and it almost happened. And then she went back into the house. But I think what we need to do is pause for a second and just reflect on that she right after that said it still took a few months, but then it happened.
It did.
And so, her parents showing up may not have, something may not have happened right then at that second, but guarantee that was the breaking point. That was the tipping point, that someone cared enough to track her down, her mom and her dad show up. And that eventually led to the tipping point of her coming home. So I know it had to have broken her heart, even though she was, so far into addiction. It obviously broke her parents' heart, but that was what needed to happen in order to get through to the next step.
that could have been the moment that her parents planted the seed in her for the next couple months
Yeah.
to get where she is now. But that can be the way that it is sometimes. So if you're a loved one right
Mhm.
now trying to get through to somebody you care so much about, and you're thinking like this, it's not working, they're not hearing me, it's going to be like this forever, don't give up. Just don't give up. And on the other side of that, if you're not a loved one, if you are a stranger to somebody or not close with somebody that you know may be going through it, just the littlest act of kindness, it can mean the biggest amount of difference. Like that could have happened where her parents did that, and then it's months later, and it just takes one person being so kind to make her realize that she does have a purpose, and that, you know, she kept saying that she didn't care about her life, she didn't care if she lived or died, but sometimes just being nice to somebody makes them see that there is more out there and that there is something to live for.
Yeah. Keep showing up in people's lives. Keep praying
Keep
for
showing
them.
up.
Keep planting those seeds.
Amen. We're going to welcome our next guest on. Our next guest, her name is also Katie. Don't get confused with me, but I am so happy to have Katie Squared on tonight so she can tell us all about her story. Now, she tells us that her nickname was Crazy Katie.
It is.
So,
It is.
Katie,
I
you're
didn't give it
going
to
to have to
myself.
elaborate there.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. So, hi, my name's Katie. I'm an alcoholic. I have ADHD, OCD, autism. Like, I have a touch of autism. I'm all the things. So, I have depression, right? Anxiety. But growing up, so I wrote this for my pre-childhood thing. I'll get into it. Anyway, so I grew up in Delaware County, Collingdale, Pennsylvania, in a home where alcohol was basically another member of the family. Both of my parents struggled with drinking, and as a kid, you don't always realize what that means, but you feel it. The energy in the house was unpredictable. Some days were normal, some days were tense. Some days you just stayed out of the way, right? As a kid, I became really good at reading people's moods before they even opened their mouths, because my parents, like when they were drinking, you would walk in the house and they'd be like, are they in a bad mood or are they in a good mood? Like, how do you approach them? So it's a survival skill that it just sticks with you. I was the type of kid that seemed tough on the outside, but I was sensitive and observant. I learned early how to take care of myself, and honestly, that's probably why I ended up stepping into adult things too young. Substances came into my life early. I started smoking weed and cigarettes around 11, and by 12 or 13, I was drinking. Dabbling. My mom took Xanax, so we would, get a few of those, and we were just living our best life. It didn't seem like you were doing anything wrong at that time, but it's just what everybody else was doing, right? So it's not that it was taking over me, but it was, and I didn't even know. Yeah. At that age, I didn't have the language for escape or numbing, but that's what it was. It made everything quieter. It made me feel like I belonged somewhere, even if that somewhere wasn't good for me. And that's really where the journey started, not with one big moment, but with a pattern that formed when I was still a kid. So with that, I went to school. I mean, I graduated I was on a 5-year plan, I tell people, but I did my 9th grade year twice because I didn't go to school. I didn't want to get dressed for gym, whatever the case may be. My senior year, I had to do four gym classes because I didn't want to do gym, right? Like, so that makes sense. Kate, why don't you just do a whole, do another year just so I could walk? Because that's all my parents wanted. You're going to graduate whether you like it or not, right? And so I did that, right? And I worked at a nursing home. I got my CNA, and then I went on to get my doing all this stuff. I'm doing coke. I'm drinking. I'm partying. I'm still functioning. I'm paying all my bills and doing all these things. I turn 18. I move out. I get my first place. And from there, it was just renting, rent after rent, like you move every year. So there's just a lifestyle until I was 25. And then I met my husband now. Then we had, I met him. We were together for a few months, and then I got pregnant. Well, after a year, I don't even know. My brain, this is the first time that I'm telling it out loud.
You're
so I
doing
post
a great
stupid
job. You're doing a great job.
I post stupid videos on TikTok, and it's not that it's stupid. It's just I don't think that anyone cares to hear it, if that makes sense. So it's more or less like I don't want a pity party, and that's not why I'm sharing it. I'm sharing it because I'm a somebody too, right? And somebody has somebody else who may not be as strong as me to say these things, right? Or to
Listen,
admit this stuff.
you sharing your story, Katie, that's not a pity party. You are doing something so brave by talking about something so personal, especially for your instance, where it's not just the decisions you made as a teenager. This goes all the way back to things that were completely out of control for you as a child. And I know you said that you may see, you know, at the time you seemed tough on the outside. You probably had to seem like that on the outside. I can't
Well,
imagine
but
what
my
it's like
parents,
to
they
not
weren't
know
they
the
weren't
vibe of the
terrible,
house that you're
you
going to go
know.
into. That was a
Yeah, and I feel
defense
like,
mechanism
but
for you. And
they
I don't
weren't
think that you
terrible.
sharing
They
this is
did
a
the best
pity
they could.
party. It's very
Hmm.
brave of you and it could help somebody.
I hope. But I mean, my parents did the best they could. Like my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked on the railroad as a welder. So he did the income and she did the household stuff,
Yeah.
you know? So it wasn't, that's just what they knew. But when they got off work, they drank. And then so that to me was something that I knew how to cope. Like when I'm stressed out, when I want to have fun, when I want to do all these things, like that's what you do. That's what they did, you
Yeah.
know? So it was just something that was a normal pattern. It was a normal behavior until I had my own family. And now I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, you know, and that's where I'm an open book with them. I tell them everything. And I know that there's age appropriate stuff, like Kristen was saying, that's so true. But it's not real, right? Like this is real life. And I was really a kid once, and this is all our first time living. So with that being said, were you guys taught emotions as kids growing up? You know, like to not recognize emotions and why we're responding the way that we respond. I think that's important, like to make sure that our kids are recognizing what's happy, sad, what makes you angry. Like, but in this, at the end of the day, it's all about self-control. If you can't control yourself, guess what? Something will or someone will, right? Like whether it be the system, whether it be drugs, whether it be food, whether it be porn, whether it be whatever it is that you're addicted to, everybody has something. You know what the
Amen.
biggest addiction is these phones. I mean, we have resources at our fingertips, which is why a lot of people feel the need to say things and do things and treat people certain ways. But when you see these people in person, they're not the same. It's not the same tone. And
Yeah.
so for somebody like me, addiction has given me the ability to, I'm very critical of myself. Like I'm self-aware, I'm self-critical. So some things that I say, people take it as, I think I'm a tough guy or you know, I'm an asshole. Like it's just stuff like that. But it's just because it's stuff that they can't own up front, right? Like you can't, just because you can't say it and it makes you uncomfortable. That's my story. I had to live that. So imagine that, you
Yeah.
know? And so here I am. I moved from Pennsylvania to Delaware, and like I said, I was working in the medical field there. I moved here as a stay-at-home mom, you know, and then my kids went to school. Well, before that happened, my husband would go to work. I would do all the mom things. I'd make sure everything was done by the time he got home. When the kids got home, I'd hang out with them, do their thing. When they went to bed, I'd go out in the garage and I'd just drink, 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 you know, like by myself. Like, what else am I going to do? I'm in the woods now. I'm not in a quote unquote city, you know, or surrounded by a bunch of people. And which was good for me. It wasn't that it was bad. We moved down here to teach our kids a different way of living. Collingdale, it was considered, I didn't know, like that. It was just my lifestyle. It wasn't a big deal to me. But looking from the outside in, it's not always the safest, right? But and you learn a way of living in a flight. Like I was flighty, I guess. I would always be on guard. Like I needed to always make sure I knew everything around, you know. And so moving
Yeah.
here, I was hoping just for me to even learn a new way of living, you know, like, and I haven't really gotten that here. And so that's where I've, you know, like even on interviews, like I've been going on a lot of interviews right now to get a job, right? And I have my own cleaning business and I went to school to do CDL and I did real estate school. It's not like I don't have an education, I do. And it's not like I was just a stay-at-home mom doing nothing. I was doing all the things, but there is
Mm-hmm.
never a functioning anything. Nobody's ever a functioning addict of any sort, you
Yeah.
know? And then when you go to the doctor or you ask for help, sometimes they just want to push meds, right?
Yeah.
They like, I've been on Zoloft, I've been on Wellbutrin, I've been on all those things. But to get me to that point, I think where I missed was that my husband got tired of me coming out here drinking, doing all that stuff. And one day he set up an intervention, right? And sent me to Florida in rehab. And I was there for 30 days. I did detox for 7. And then I was in the other part of it, I think for like 22. But with that, you're sitting by yourself. There's nobody coming to save you. And so I was mad at God because my dad had passed away in 2011 of pancreatic cancer. And I mean, nobody said that it was directly from drinking, but I'm in the medical field. I'm telling you that I'm sure it had something to do with it, right?
Yeah.
And so I went to rehab, and I was mad at God because my mom had 2 hemorrhagic strokes. My dad, he died. He was dealing with cancer, and then he died. So I just felt like I was always taking care of everybody, and that's all I knew, right? Like I didn't know to take care of myself. I didn't know that it was okay to stop and focus on who Katie is. I just, at that point, I became a mom, a wife, and that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But sitting there and being all alone, knowing that no one's coming to save you, you figure it out and be strong, you know? So I think my message is that I just want people to be more like, just listen more, right? Like ask questions. Don't be scared to be weird. Don't, you know, if you have something to say it. If it sounds bad, don't do it, right? Or if all that stuff, it sounds common sense, and all these cliche quotes, that's what's been helping me. Like I don't practice, you know, I don't go to NA and AA, all that. It's not for any other reason other than I've found other resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was going there, you know, or even talking about this stuff, it was more or less like, yes, I've been identified as an addict, but as an addict, I'm still a human, right? So that's just the diagnosis that they gave me on top of the depression, anxiety. So now I'm just a total crazy person, right? But the craziness that I'm talking about is real life. That was my life, and that's what I was living. Like, and it's never for anyone to feel bad. It's just that if you're feeling that way, you're not alone, and it'll be okay. Just keep going.
Katie, one thing I picked up on when you were talking, and I think it deserves to be pointed out because we do have a heavy Delaware audience in here. You said you're from Collingdale, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So my grandparents were from Ridley Park. Okay. My dad lives in Drexel Hill. I know that area very well. And the fact that you're sitting here right now today to tell your story, coming from that area that is so plagued by drugs. Addiction has its throes in those suburbs of Philly. It is an absolute testimony to you and to God that you're sitting here with us today to tell your testimony and help somebody else. Because that in itself, getting out of that area, you overcame just in that.
And for more or less, I want my boys to know that, like, as I'm preaching this stuff to you, like, you know, because I do teach them this stuff. I mean, they need to know this stuff. They've seen it. They've lived it. Like, I miss my kids' kindergarten graduation because I'm sitting in rehab because I thought I had full control of my life, and I apparently didn't. Right? I didn't until I sat there, you know, and didn't have the outlets. But
Katie, let me ask you a question. You said earlier that when you were sitting down in rehab, that you were angry with God.
Everyone.
How did you work through that? Are you still angry with God, or how have you started to take that emotion, and what happened over the next couple months and years? And
I stopped looking for somebody else to blame. You know what I'm saying? Like, clearly I had to take accountability for what I had put on my life and on everybody else's, for that matter. Like, the choices that I was making didn't just affect me, it was affecting everybody. I was fine, right? Like, as far as I knew, I was okay. I was doing just fine. It was no big deal. But sitting there and trying, like, I didn't feel that that's where I was because I didn't fit in, right? And I've never fit in. It was because I won't just do what anyone else is doing just to do it. I need logic behind it, right? So with the drugs, it was fun. With this, there was just nobody came. There was no letters. And I had a whole life that I had to take care of that I had built. And I'm just sitting here like, what did I do to deserve this? You know, like, I did what society is doing as a whole. Everybody drinks, everybody parties, everybody does this stuff. Why is it not okay for me to do it? You know, but then nobody knew, and everyone wants self-pity, and God was the only person. Like, and then I grew up Catholic, you know, so it wasn't that it was just I grew up Catholic. My dad was on his deathbed, and we had called the church to get his last rites read. Well, at that time, we weren't going to church because they were sick, so we hadn't been there to give the envelopes or whatever reason it was. But the priest said that he couldn't do it because we hadn't been active members. And with that, that's why I was like, are you kidding me? You know, but God it's not necessarily, you know, for me, when my dad died, that's the only person that I was actually scared of, you know, that would tell me not to do something and I'm not going to do it. Right. And he's not here now. So now that he's he's my God. He's my strength. He's the power. I mean, it sounds crazy. It does. But I mean, for people that don't believe, but he gives me the strength because I know that he's with me. Like, listen, he knows, I know we got it together, you know, and I do this for people that aren't necessarily strong enough to sit here and voice this stuff. It's embarrassing, right? It's shameful. And like I said, you don't want just somebody to give you the attention of sympathy just because you come with a story. It's not. Those stories have taught me the lessons that I know. They've built me to the person that I am. So I don't need to be a member of all these things to be who I am and what I want to bring to the table and what I'm trying to show people that it's a possibility. I didn't even know that the way that I lived right now was any different than anybody else, you know, until you start speaking out and you start saying like, oh dude, this isn't normal for you, or, you know, and so you start to see. So I don't know where any of this stuff comes from, right? It's just it's what I know. Like I just talk about my life, and I didn't realize that everybody else's lives they didn't do that, right? Like they didn't do the stuff that I've done.
Like you said earlier, though, their addiction comes in so many forms. So
Mm-hmm.
Whether somebody knows that their life is like that or not, there's something in their life, even if it's just coffee in the morning, even if it's just they're turning the TV on at the end of the night, their ritual wind down. There is something that they're depending on to find comfort in. And what you depended on to find comfort in was just a little bit different.
Well, and like I said, I probably wouldn't have made, like, if without rehab, and I don't know if I needed the whole stay, but definitely detox I needed because I was having seizures, things like that. So the detox, I would have died. I mean, I was taking Xanax, and it wasn't like I was just taking a bunch of them. I was taking one, or, you know, whatever, to go to sleep to top off my booze, you know. And so, but with that, I was shaking tremors for like 9 months of withdrawal afterwards. So it's kind of like you're like, well, I stopped doing this stuff. Why is my body still not feeling good? Like, why don't I feel normal? What's normal? And I'm only 1,662 days sober as far as alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as alcohol, that's how long it's been since I've been in rehab, since I've done all those things. And it's not, I wouldn't say that I don't have cravings. I don't have days where I'm like, I could use a drink, but there's never going to be, not for today. No one is going to make me drink, as far as what you're doing to my feelings that make me angry or make me whatever, that I'm like, oh, that's it. Fine. I'll show you how it is. I think it, I'm not going to lie, but I wouldn't. I mean, I know better. And now that I know better, I can do better.
It's a lifelong battle, but I mean, you're here and you're battling it. What'd you say? 1,662 days?
But it's one day at a time. Like some days I got to stay in the minute. It's not, you know, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It's just, I'm real. And so in order to be real and show people what real is, I got to speak up and speak out, which is why people call me crazy, you know? And so I'm either crazy or, you know, so I own it. I own it now, because if that's what you call crazy is real, raw, and honest, well, then so be it. Hallelujah. Amen. That's me.
Somebody in the comments just said, thank God for your husband realizing it and intervening for you. Thank God for your husband recognizing what you needed when you didn't know, and love that you trusted him to get help. That's absolutely true. That's such a good point. It's really, you know, you trusted him to recognize that for you, and you trusted that you needed to do something for him and for you.
Well, and I think there's a lot more to that. Like, he's a great person. Don't get me wrong. He's a great person. But we're like I said, like, we got together, we hit it off right from the bat. We've been together ever since. But now, we live, like, I have toxic in-laws as well. So, I mean, they have their own stories, and there's more to that. It wasn't just that he saved the day. Like, I don't want anyone to think that. Like, we had a whole lot going on, that it was his issues, you know, his mental health issues. He didn't know that he had a sister, you know, his whole life, and his mom would always, him and his brother said that they wanted a sister. And so come to find out, his mom had a daughter that she gave up for adoption, and they just reached out on Facebook, not, you know, maybe within the last 2 years, to tell him that he had a sibling, you know? So it's kind of like, but you kept saying that they wanted a sister, right? And now and they had one the whole time. So where's the mental health issues, right? Yeah. And they never had issues with substances, but they had issues as far as manipulation, right? Things like that. And so these are things that went on behind the scenes. So it wasn't all me and all my issues, and it wasn't him just saving the day. I mean, I think as grown adults now, and as two humans, you know, coexisting and now raising children, it's never about a title. It's never about a position. It's about what do people bring to your life? If they're not bringing you peace and they're not contributing to what you're trying to make of yourself, then why are you surrounding yourself with them? And I think that that's important for kids to know right now. Like if your friends aren't talking very nice about you, or going behind your back, they're not really your friends, right? Like, just focus on who you are and what you want to be, and it's easier said than done.
Amen.
But
Amen. Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing your story.
thank you for letting me. Like, I didn't think anybody really cared. Like, it's just
We
the way,
cared.
it's just how I live.
There's a lot of people that care, and sharing your story is going to help a lot of people. And that's what it's all about, is people will see that are in the throes of it, just as you were, that there is a way forward. There is success, that when no one else was there, that God was there to hold
Well,
your
and there's
hand.
no right way. There's no right way. So whatever works for you may not work for anybody else. So, but
You're right.
if you don't show them, they won't know. And
You're
so,
right. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you,
thank you
Katie.
guys so much.
That was an amazing story. And I love how raw and vulnerable she was telling it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get on the camera at all that's going to be seen by people, but let alone when it's something so personal and something that's affected you so much, that I think it needs to be recognized. That takes true bravery. It really does.
You're absolutely right.
All right, next we're going to welcome, I believe I saw it say that Senator Eric Buxton has come to the stage. So if we can let him in, we're going to be talking to one of our senators from down south, Eric Buxton. And Eric has been so encouraging. I've seen some videos he's made, especially recently, just being so encouraging that it's one day at a time, and we see you and we recognize you. And especially, Eric, I want to thank you for being vocal about this, especially this time of year, because this time of year is so hard for so many people.
Right on. Appreciate that. Listen, first thing, really appreciate what both of you are doing. I think you've energized a groundswell of support. There are individuals out there that have moved to the forefront of important topics, including this space. So I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. And I appreciated the invite. Happy to speak to this from my perspective. Willing to answer any questions or offer up any thoughts, so you tell me. And shout out to my wife, Jennifer, who's watching in Texas right now.
That's wonderful.
That's love. Eric,
Yes, it is.
I want you to share your take. I want to hear what your thoughts on it are as a legislator, and not just as a legislator, but as somebody in this community that does recognize that the huge problem we have. I mean, earlier Greg was on here and he told us the statistic that Delaware is top 5 in overdoses in the nation. That's huge.
Yeah. So the state has taken the approach that if we drive down the number of overdose deaths, which is important, that we can present that as a means to say we're doing something very positive in the state, and we are. But behind that is what you just referenced. We have an explosion of overdoses on the streets, celebrating the fact that those folks that are overdosing aren't dying. What we're ignoring is the fact that they're not dying, but we're releasing them back into the world that got them in that space, and we're not effective in helping them. And the effectiveness has to come in a robust offering of support and help and assistance through the families and the communities that expect it. And then a reality that if the individual refuses that path, then at some point in the state has a duty to come in and take control of an out of control world, something I call involuntary commitment, which is a very challenging topic because it transcends political affiliation. It's not a Republican Democrat issue. In fact, it offends both sides at times. But the ones in the middle that get it, that support the fact that we need to come in with a plan that says this out of control world that you're living, where we can Narcan you 3 times in the same week and expect you to make a rational decision. And until you do, allow you to continue to do what you're doing. This world that we live in, where we can have a woman 5 months pregnant on the streets of Dover or Wilmington or Georgetown and allow them to make decisions that impact the life of that child. It's an irrational thought. When we allow somebody's son to live on the streets, addicted to drugs, panhandling, and allowing that panhandling to lead to petty theft, and still ignore the problem until they catch a charge serious enough that we don't treat the addiction and the disease. We get them to a felony charge and a prison sentence. It's an ineffective model. And so that's a lot going on. Hopefully I encapsulated it in 30 seconds or whatever time I just had, but we need to be serious about this.
Eric, as a coach, I know that
Yeah.
you've been a coach for a number of years. Where have you seen drug use and addiction change from maybe where you started as a teacher and a coach to now? What are some of the things that maybe people who have grandchildren or people who are
Yeah.
just having children now, what are the changes that you've seen over that time period?
Whether it's our approach to addiction, whether it's our approach to anything in life, what we've done is we've created an acceptance of poor behaviors and poor actions without accountability and reaction to it or responsibility for your actions. Coaching, good news, I am the head coach of I soon to be announced head coach of the Cesar Rodney Girl Wrestling team. That's news that I'm breaking here, and it's exciting times for me. It is something that I have dearly missed. But let me get back to the question at hand, which is what I've seen in my 30 years as not just a coach, but a health instructor, educator. We focus on education with our children in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. And that's important, right? What I used to tell them is always this: when that decision comes, and it will come, I used to tell my kids that. Are you prepared on whether or not you're going to be able to adequately say yes or no in that moment? And are you willing to accept the consequences of a decision to use? In our schools right now, you're still seeing it. It's still the same old alcohol. It's still the same old use of marijuana and maybe experimenting with light drugs. We're not having this massive approach to, in my words, it's not much different than it's been in the past with the use and experimentation of drugs. What we have is this continuance of approach that as you get older and life changes and challenges hit you in the face, and you start to see cures from that, whether it's excitement of life or trying to deal with, some issues. Maybe it's mental, maybe it's just life issues. You start to experiment with other options. Once you go down that road, the challenge is it's the old, if this makes me feel this, maybe this will make me feel even better. And then when you run out of the ability to control your life or manage your income or function as an adult working or other, once you run out of those abilities, then you begin to experiment with the best, cheapest available. And that's those death sentence drugs that I talk about. That's the heroin laced with fentanyl. That's the crack cocaine. Those are the drugs, the crystal meth that are what you see on the streets. Nobody on the streets is on the streets because they're addicted to marijuana. They're addicted to the drugs, which are the death sentence drugs that I used to tell in my health classes. When I used to explain to them, look, you're going to be at a party at some point in time and somebody's going to offer you alcohol, and you're going to have to make that decision on whether or not that's you. And you're going to have to appreciate that. For some of you, I'm just going to be real with you, because if I'm not, you're not going to believe me. What I'm going to tell you is this: you're going to be able to experiment with alcohol or marijuana, and it's not going to hit you the same way it does the person sitting next to you in this classroom who's going to be addicted to drugs, because it hits them differently. And nobody knows why. I don't want to say it's God's plan, but it's the design that your body has where you are impacted differently. How many of you know you like vanilla ice cream versus chocolate? And they don't, first of all, how many of you know you like ice cream? I love ice cream. How many of you know like vanilla versus chocolate? Well, because I tried it. Okay, well, here's the problem. In the world of drugs, when you get into that mentality of trying, for some of you, it's going to lead to a sentence. And we don't know who you are. I used to tell my 30-room class, I'd say, everybody here, you got 30 of you, right? I want you to identify the 5 of you that statistically will be addicted to some form of alcohol or drugs in the next 15 years. Because statistics tell you that's going to happen. And the only way to prevent that is for me to get you to understand that you won't know until you know. So you have to be willing to decide, I don't want to find out. I don't want to experiment. because I might do what Mr. Buxton said, which is I might find out that I now am addicted to it. The biggest problem, I'm almost done. The biggest problem we got is you don't know until you know. Why is it that we have people walk around all day long and they can drink alcohol? And then we have those, alcohol is one of our biggest problems. And they have those that are alcoholics. You don't know. That's the problem. But anyway, I hope I didn't get off the rails. Let me hear what you have to say.
No, you didn't. I'm just sitting here. I think you're onto something. I think you're making very astute observations, and you're absolutely right. You don't know until you know, and it just takes that one time, and then you found out, unfortunately, and it's very hard to come back from that at that point.
Yeah, it's not the kids. The drug use is the drug use. We've had it back when I was in school in the 80s, right? I remember going to parties, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I don't need to be, this is a bad spot. And other kids thinking, no. One of my closest friends wrestled with him in high school. I was just on the phone with him yesterday. We're trying to clear a felony charge that he caught when he was the same age as me and made the decision to use, right? And it got him hung up. That's not change. That's the same thing we got today. The problem is what we're doing to deal with the adults who are consumed with the disease of addiction on the streets, where it's taken over their lives. They're no longer able to function, going to work, paying for their usage and managing it. That's the issue.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks that are addicted to drugs. They don't know it because they're able to manage it because of the income they have. Once that income gets shallow and they start getting desperate, two things happen. They find a new income to pay for the drugs they're using, or they go to a cheaper drug. And that cheaper drug is what grabs them. We always talk about opioids. Opioids was a massive problem. But the legalities and the restrictions now have really changed the dynamics. It really has changed the dynamic. The biggest fear we should have now is the lacing of. The lacing of things as simple as marijuana or gummies.
And when you buy them off the street, they do it intentionally because marijuana is not going to get you physically addicted, but you put a little bit of fentanyl in it, now you are. And now you want something harder, and now you want something stronger, and you want to find the people. I was talking while interviewing people for this podcast tonight, and actually I'm going to mention right now, we've actually talked to so many people, and this is such a bigger issue that touches so many more people than we were expecting, that we're actually going to do a second episode on this topic as well, because there's just so much to cover. But when talking to a lot of people wanted to tell me their story and experience, but not quite go on camera, some of them were still in active addiction, and they said that the biggest problem, like you just said, they echoed your sentiments, it's the lacing with the fentanyl. And you would think when somebody overdoses from a certain drug dealer, that now addicts don't want to go back to that drug dealer. They don't want to go to that drug dealer because they have dangerous. Well, it's not like that. It's the exact opposite. They want to go to that drug dealer because they have the best drugs.
You want to pick somebody to come on your show and interview? Pick an emergency first responder and ask them to share their stories.
Yeah.
Ask an EMT at Houston Fire Department, Brian. Ask a paramedic with Kent County. Ask them to share their lived experience of going out to people's homes, and the shock you'll feel when they bring somebody back to life and the person's angry at them because they ruined their high, or they have to show up the next day or the next week because it's the same. Here's the problem. That's somebody's child. That's somebody's daughter or son. That's somebody's parent. They are trapped. They are trapped in an out of control world. And I'll end with this because I know my time was limited. I wanted to say this. We are in a tight budget. I understand that. But in this space, if Delaware wants to reprioritize what we're doing in this space, we have the funds available to not add new money from our current budget to act this problem. We absolutely do. We are successfully going to bring on board a detoxification center in Kent County. The land was just purchased. That is a big step in the commitment to make it happen. We have got to get post 30 days of detox. And this detox won't be attached to the methadone and all those addictive monetizing types of money, which traps people. It has to lead, though, to two things. It has to lead to a residential space, an inpatient space, where I hope Bay Health comes in and maintains the bottom floor to provide medical service, the up floor to continue with their sobriety. And here's the thing. If they refuse that model, if the folks that are trapped on the street refuse that, the families that I know, the communities that I know want an answer for that. And the answer is, well, then we're going to involuntary commit you. There's a Morris Correctional Facility right here in Dover. It's right next to Spence's Bazaar that is essentially empty. It used to be a quote prison, but it wasn't a prison. It was a work release, end of term or drug rehabilitation towards the end of their sentence. How do I know that? My sister was a Delaware attorney who ended up on the streets of Delaware. The only thing that saved her life was that Morris Correctional Facility. Here's the irony of it. We have people that say, a football analogy, if you run 100 offensive plays and you win 30-0 or 30-20, whatever, in those 100 plays, probably 30 plays went for a loss or were horrible. But that means 70 were good. Here's what we do in in our drug world addiction. We focus on the 30 that it didn't work for and throw the offense out. You understand what I'm saying to you? We say, yeah, but it doesn't work until you're ready. It didn't work for these people, so the system's broke. And my statement is, it worked for 70 and you're focusing on the 30. And now it doesn't work for anybody. This is back crap crazy. And as long as I'm here, I said I'm going to focus on education and addiction. And that's where I am.
I love where you're at on all this. And I think you're onto something. And I think that we need to, I'm going to say this, it's going to sound crass. We need to stop the sympathy a little bit. And we really need to evaluate that involuntary addiction thing.
They'll thank you later.
If we're not willing to do that, in a lot of these cases, we're just throwing out money at a problem and it's not going to help. And when we're talking about, especially the money in it, I noticed, and I've been looking a little bit into $2 million of the $1 billion health and medical money that we're going to be receiving from federal. 2 million of that is going to expand the Hope Centers and put them down south. And I don't know how you feel about that personally, but when you're talking about detoxification and these inpatient things, I feel like that's perhaps a better use of that money.
Yes. I was interviewed tonight on TV about this exact topic. They said, what do you feel about the Hope Center model? I said, what I said in my early stages was that I want a Hope type of project here in Kent County and Sussex County. It doesn't replicate what they're doing in Newcastle because that's a housing first initiative. And I want a treatment first initiative. I want it based on treatment. That's where it has to be. You shelter the sick, you house the healthy.
Yes.
They want to house everybody. You'll spend money, you'll spend good money after bad. It'll be ineffective. We should not be doing, we need to shelter the sick, which is robust detoxification. We've got facilities. The Plummer House up north just got vacated in Wilmington. It's a wonderful facility. We could repurpose that and dedicate it to returning people back to the lives they deserve. Here's what happens. 3 strikes and you're in. If you bring in the emergency services, police, and others, and I'm just 3 strikes and you're now involuntary committed. Right? Because we've now brought you back to life 3 different times. You clearly are out of control. We're going to commit you now to this, let's say the Plummer House or the Morris Correctional Facility. And you don't get to AMA, which is against medical advice, in 7 days because you're feeling better. You've been sentenced there for 6 months, for 12 months. And then we have to have the robust recovery at the end of that, because I'll promise you this. You talk about God, you talk about plans. You have to have a purpose in life. If I guarantee you, if you involuntary commit or you commit folks, they'll talk to you about the road to recovery and how they got to be successful. But at the end of that, when they ring the bell and there's no purpose, at the end of that, it's like, okay, I'm here. Everybody celebrated me. And now 3 days later, I'm looking around going, all right, what's next? I don't know what to do. That's the purpose. We have to create purpose in life, direct them to jobs, connect them with God, connect them with, hope that leads to purpose.
Thank you so much, Senator. And we will definitely have you back on. I wish we had more time to talk with you.
Absolutely. We're going to hold you to it. We're going to get you back on here.
Yeah. Thanks. It's Pat. Keep doing what you guys are doing, right?
Thank you
you,
so
Eric. We
much.
appreciate it.
And I think that's a perfect segue about moving into, we have to have places that not only allow people to see that there's something else, that there's a higher power, but then sets them up for success in what's next. Doesn't just leave them to go back into the same environment, but then says, okay, let's prepare you for what life looks like after this. And let's bring in Pastor Bob Carey. He is head of Adult and Teen Challenge. They have a men's facility down in Seaford, Delaware, and a women's facility in Bridgeville. And I think this is a shocking number that they have over 80%, 85% of success rate here in Delaware when it comes to getting people not only to and I'm trying to look for, oh, he's on here. Yep. To getting them not only through this addiction and get them sober, but also finding their next steps, finding housing, finding a new job, and getting them on those next steps. So, Bob, I see that your camera's off, but that your mic's on. I'm hoping that you're around so we can get you on here. Here you are.
Oh, there
How
we
are
are.
you, Pastor?
Hey, thanks, Brian. Thanks, Katie. Boy, I could speak to so many things right now.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
Just wonderful, absolutely wonderful testimonies, Kristen and Katie and Senator Buxton. Appreciate just everybody's thoughts and passion to be a part of this epidemic.
Mm.
It's a state epidemic. It's a national epidemic. And that's why God called me back to Delaware from Detroit, Michigan. And he had to get me out of Delaware in order to get me on the right track.
Mm.
And I want to speak to several different things. I have 33 years of substance free and alcohol free recovery without a relapse. And it's because of a relationship that I have with a higher purpose in God.
Mm.
And I always thought that I was my own God, and my addictive behaviors were selfish. They separated me from God. And I wanted to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And nobody could tell me different, but God had to take me down all the way to being a homeless man in Baltimore on Lombard and Pratt Street, panhandling for Thunderbird wine and Mad Dog wine, to the point of being 138 pounds, jaundiced liver, jaundiced skin, jaundiced eyes. And then some evangelists found me in the streets, passed out, 106-degree temperature on Lombard and Pratt, and took me to Mercy Hospital for 2 weeks. From there, he sent me to Teen Challenge in Capitol Heights. I had been through so many 30-day rehabs, Father Martin's Alley, Hidden Brook, Warwick, all those things, but I wasn't ready because I didn't hit bottom. And there I hit bottom when I look back on it. They sent me to Michigan. I was in Teen Challenge up there, the main training facility. And I had a radical life transforming experience. And I haven't looked back. I haven't looked back. And all I've wanted to do, I have an insatiable desire to help people that were stuck where I was stuck. Now, I didn't grow up that way. I grew up in Newark, Delaware, on the 16th fairway of the Newark Country Club, went to Sanford Preparatory Private School, went into U of D, worked at DuPont Chemical Company for 11 years and drank my way out of that job. I wore a white lab coat at the Glasgow site in the daytime and put on my black leather jacket at nighttime. It was like being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and lost that income like I heard somebody talk about. And, from there, it just spiraled down. The bad influences, the bad crowd, the people, places, and things. But now it's just the opposite, absolutely the opposite. And I have a desire today to live life to good purpose. I have not religion, but but I have a relationship with
Yes.
my God.
Yes.
And that's what it's about. And that's what our staff here at Delmarva Adult and Teen Challenge espouse. And they present to the women and the men that are broken and hurting that come into our residential program. They see the love, the EQ, the kindness, the gentleness. Even during heated discussions, they see that it doesn't move us and that we try to look for solutions. We are not dope dealers, we're hope dealers. We deal hope to all the people that come into our program, to the tune of 527 men and women have graduated our 12 to 15 month residential program. 527, multiply that times their family members or their spouses. I had a gentleman come in this program who got divorced, signed the papers right there with his wife, divorced. And when he graduated, do you know that she wanted to get married back to him again? Talk about a dichotomy of behavioral change. It's a lifestyle to be an addiction, but it's also a lifestyle, you know, to be serving people and loving people and going into the woods and pulling out the homeless people with a shopping cart, helping them push it back to the center, witnessing, sharing your testimony, and helping people. And one of the problems that I see with Delmarva Adult and Teen Challenge, if you could call it a problem, is God has shown so much favor on this ministry and the team that we have surrounding Delmarva Adult and Teen Challenge that people just avoid us. We're not in with the state. We're not a state program, quote unquote. And because of that, we don't get a lot of the funding that maybe all these other Pop-Tart recovery ministries that are popping up for 10 days or 30 days. We're like a holistic faith-based Walmart. We do it all. We do it all. And all these other programs are getting all this money and we're raising the funding by ourselves. You know, so I got a little edge on me, Representative Shoup.
I know you do, Bob.
But rightfully so, because I've held people in my arms after Narcanning them and they died. Like Senator Buxton said, I had a girl that we Narcanned right in front of our men's campus, Walker in the street here, and she was bent over like she was doing just stuck, bent over. So went over, and then she laid down and she stopped breathing. So we Narcanned her. The EMTs came, took her to Nanticoke Hospital, and I went in there to follow up with a brochure and a business card to put her into our women's campus. And the head nurse came out and said, I showed her your card, and she said she didn't want to have anything to do with you because you ruined her high. And so,
and that kind of segues to what Senator Buxton was saying is it's not enough. It's not enough to just be out there Narcanning people. There has to be hope for them. And if they can't see the hope, there has to be something we can do to help them. They're not in the right state of mind to be making these kind of decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But once they come into our program, let me just give a shout out about who we are and what we do.
Please. Yeah.
First of all, Delmarva Adult and Teen Challenge is, put on your seatbelt, tuition free. We don't charge a nickel to get anything to anybody who is broken and wants help or wants to come into the program. They may need to get help, but hopefully the way that we treat them, our conduct, our staff, our program itself, and the success of all the people in the program. We got people from 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months graduating. And when they see that and they see the way that the program is run, and it's a very clean, we have dormitories. They're not houses, they're dormitories. And, you know, we can hold up to 25 men. I've had them on cots up in the day room to get 30 in here in the program before, just because I don't want to see them on the street. I mean, my wife and I pray every night, Lord, help those folks out there on the street. You know, help us to rescue them. You know, I was listening to Kristen's story about how her parents came and knocked on the door. And I read a story about that in the book of Jude, and they were called fire snatchers. They snatched them out of the fire. And that's what we do. We have outreach ministries and programs that go all up and down Delaware. We got a crisis referral office in Hockessin, one down in Salisbury, and we've been here 17 years, right here in Sussex County and in Bridgeville, Delaware. One of the most successful rehabilitation program nationally. It started in 1958, Reverend David Wilkerson in New York City, and he went up there to help gang members out and found out that he needed to open up a residential program for them. And now there's 1,400 Teen Challenge centers in 139 countries with over 30,000 beds. And we are all, each one of us is autonomous, self-governing. We have to raise our own funding and everything, but we're letting them in for free. And so it's getting a hold of the people that make the decisions up in Dover and saying, hey, we've got some of the highest success outcomes. We have metrics, qualitative and quantitative, on Sober Peer platform, plus our transition department that does transition in, through, and out. We have graduation homes that postgraduates go into so that they can get their educational landing pads stabilized, their residential landing pads, and learn to save money and get a car. And we've got connections with dealerships, and we've got a host of connections over the years because they believe in the successful outcomes of Delmarva Adult and Teen Challenge.
That statistics, it speaks for itself. That's incredible. That is proof in the pudding that when you find a higher purpose, when you find something higher than yourself, it resonates. I have a question for you, just me listening to your story personally. You said that finding God really turned your life around. When you were in the throes of your addiction, when you were losing your job, did you feel a darkness over you? Like looking back now, knowing what the presence of Jesus feels like, did you feel at that time a darkness over you?
I did, but the pride that comes from addiction outweighed that. People tried to talk to me, even pastors, counselors, everything, and I just let it go in one ear and out the other. Yeah. And I had a hidden agenda underneath of it when I was in my addiction, and I had to feel the consequences of my drinking, using drugs, what have you, and that's why we have a strong accountability in our ministry, a three strike policy and corrective discipline for our men and women, but it's all with the heart motive of love. Yeah. And that segues me into something that I want to talk about just briefly because it's so important with the addiction here, and that has to do with enabling and tough love. Yeah. Enabling and tough love. And I wrote on my Facebook page, this is what I wrote on November 26th. Enabling has catastrophic consequences when dealing with addiction. It can be so deceptive that a person honestly feels they're helping somebody when in fact, the reality is they're hurting them. And so we want to believe in people that are saying, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. I promise this time. But they don't have them on the inside to say no when they're tempted. And that's what we concentrate on through our academic program, is building character, godly character into people's lives. That's the spiritual aspect. I want to read you our mission statement. We exist to help those who are entrusted into our care to become mentally sound, physically well, emotionally balanced, socially adjusted, and spiritually alive. And that's done through our holistic approach and through our academic program. And people say, well, I'm not a good learner. I wasn't good in school. These are easy to follow workbooks that we have. And let me just bring up some of the courses that we teach so the listening audience can know that. Oops. There I am. Okay. We go through we have a curriculum map here, and it's spiritual formation, social development, emotional development, leadership development, addiction education, and life skills development. And each one of those things, they go through 17 to 21 workbooks while they're with us. And we have a tremendous counseling team at both of our campuses. In other words, breaking free, exposing the nature of addiction, confronting the ghost in my own life, denial, grief and addiction, addictive cycles, breaking cycle, relapse prevention, and 2 classes in that. And the emotional development, understanding myself, building emotional intelligence, starting a new normal, owning my story, embracing healing, managing triggers, a new toolbox for healthy coping skills, balanced relationships, truth or grace. And this is one thing that I always tell a person when they come in. I said, I used to have one day, I wore the shoes, and if I can do it, you can do it. And we're going to help you to do it, and we're going to do it in a loving way. But all you have to do, we're not charging you anything through this whole program, but there's 2 things that we want from you: transparency and honesty. Transparency plus honesty equals freedom. Absolutely. We can work with that. But if somebody's hiding and wanting to shoot moves around, circumvent, and do what they want to do, then we're pretty wise to that, and our staff members, and we'll pull them up on it and try to walk them through that and to be overcomers. We have a lot of overcomers here. We got gang leaders here. We've got court justices' sons or daughters here. I can't mention names. We got state police officers' kids here. We've got suburbanites. We've got people on the street, homeless people. But the one common denominator is a hopeless, broken life. And we want to be those that are lifting them up.
Yeah.
But lifting them up to what? We want them to be successful. And we'll give them the shirt off our backs to make sure that they make it through the program. And that's the difference. We have an environment of love, of doing whatever it takes. I had someone one time want to commit suicide when I was ready to go home. Guess what? I didn't go home. We're not clock punchers. We're 24/7 here. And the people that work here are called here. And when you have a calling on your life, that makes all the difference in the world.
It does. It does. I would say that you're doing a great thing down there, but I think it's pretty evident to all of our watchers right now, people that are watching this, people that will see it after it's posted, that God is doing a great thing through you as the vessel. I mean, it just emanates in the way you talk with passion about this. It's very clear to see, I feel like.
It's not about being sober. It's not about being clean. It's about life transformation.
Yeah.
And before that can happen, the heart has to change. So we deal with the heart for the first 6 to 8 months. And once the heart is changed, then we can do all these other good things like resume writing, like how to take an interview. But a lot of times, a lot of people with a good heart motive want to put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
And the heart has to change first. And I've seen it in 33 years of working for Teen Challenge and in my own life. And I'm not angry. I'm passionate about what I do. And I'm passionate about, if I was an investor or somebody, I'd want to invest in something that has an 86% success rate.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? 8 out of 10 people that walk through our doors graduate the program and never go back. We do 3, 5, 10-year metrics on that. And people are still, we got people that started businesses, people that we got their records expunged up in Dover, and they went back to college and now they're nurses or anesthesiologists. I'm like, wow, if I ever have to get heart something done, maybe it'll be one of my students that's picking me up. I better treat them right.
Well, Pastor Bob, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me down to actually see on campus what you guys do. I was able to see on the women's campus, and it was such an incredible experience to see not only what you do, but the love in which you guys have for what you do and how God works through your campus and through your staff. And absolutely, you guys are changing hearts. And that's what we need to get to in Delaware, is not just throwing money at the problem,
Yeah.
not just helping with the detox, which is a big part of it, but changing that heart motive and changing the way that people think about their future and what life, is really about. And you guys, you do it exceptionally. So thank you.
Pastor Bob, I out sometime too, and I'd like to be able to talk to you on the side just to see
Absolutely.
how I can help you, help your mission, and how I can help spread the word about this being an option, a successful option. Like I said, there's a lot of addicts I spoke to that are currently in addiction and are
Mhm.
functioning and just didn't want to come on and out themselves on camera. But I would love to be able to get this information in their hands.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're in it to win it
Yes.
for them.
Yes.
But our dormitories and our environments, we're very intentional
Mhm.
with the way, even to the point of the different color palettes on the walls, the carpet, everything. I mean, if I was homeless or I was broken on the street, to come into our women's campus, and by the way, our women's campus is 90 acres. We got two-story dormitories. We have a daycare center because we help
Wow.
single women, women that are pregnant, and women that have children under 6 years of age. And when the mother is in class, they're in the nursery, in the holistic nursery, getting cared for. But we believe that we don't want to lose the mother mantle, and as they transform, their children transform with them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Can we get this to Matt Meyer? Can we get this to somebody that's in charge of funding? Because it's you have everything going on
Mhm.
down there. You thought of everything, and you're taking care of the whole person, not just the addict. And I think that's so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're here for everyone,
Yeah.
regardless of political,
Yeah.
belief or whatever. It's about, I'm a G man. I'm a God man.
Yeah.
So whatever he espoused, I espouse,
Yeah.
and whoever he loved, I want to love. Whoever he helped, even when they seemingly didn't need help or whatever, or desire help, he helped them, or he tried to help them. And that's who I want to be. And so we're here in Delaware, and we're making a difference with state money or without state money.
Yeah.
We're making a difference.
Yes.
But we could use a few nickels here and there since we're doing it for free.
Let's figure out how to get you those nickels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen.
Thank you
Pastor
so
Thank you
much
Bob,
so
for
much.
coming on tonight and just sharing all about this. I really genuinely appreciate you coming on here and talking about the program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. What an incredible place. I mean,
They really thought of everything. Daycares for the kids so they can still be a mother. They're not being taken away from their kids. I want to go down and check it out. I really do. I want to go see which ways to get involved. I mean, you can just feel talking to him. You can feel the power in what he's saying. You can feel the power and the passion behind the mission. It's not just a feel good measure. It's not just I was an addict, so I want to help addicts. He is passionate. He is truly called to be in this space, helping these people.
You know what's funny as well, in that same vein, I will show up to events. I showed up to an event at a church just a few months ago, and they had a booth there where there was adult and teen challenge, just handing out brochures. And Pastor Bob was there. And I was like, that's the CEO of the company, just handing out brochures
That's
at the
incredible.
booth. Could have been any volunteer. Like, he's out there alongside the people who are inside, who are been successful. And then they brought the individuals who were in the program, the women's program, to the event, to the church, to be a part of that event and have a great night as well.
Absolutely incredible. And I cannot believe after hearing him talk about this, I had never heard about Teen Challenge before. Before we started planning this podcast, I had no idea that such a resource existed, let alone existed for free to the people that need the help.
Yeah, we need to get their name out there more. The first way that I heard about them was on the Bridge Radio, and I kept hearing, and I actually said, I need to get a hold of somebody there because I keep hearing their name, and it keeps. And then I reached out, and then Pastor Bob reached out to me, invited me down there, and I was like, this is something different,
Yes.
and this is something that is working. And when he talks about success stories, I think that is a perfect segue into
Yes.
our next guest. Our final guest for the evening is a gentleman that many of you know here, especially in Kent and Sussex County. You may not know him by his name, Gary Shirey. You may know him by Bub's Grubs. He has an amazing food truck. We've had him in our business before because the food is absolutely incredible. But he has an incredible story behind his success as well. And I want to welcome him, Gary. Welcome. And thank you for taking the time to share your story with us and help others. It means so much to us.
Absolutely. Thank you, God, for having me on this evening. I know you said that I could get off and hop back on later, but I like to tune into everybody's story. Everybody's testimony is different. Everybody's journey is different. That's something that I've gained a lot of love and a lot of hate for at the same time. I speak from emotion and pain, and sometimes 95% of the time I can allow my emotions to get the best of me when I'm expressing things. I had a life by choice. I'm going to say that. My dad went to jail for murder when I was 6 years old. So I kind of got hit in the gut level pretty young. My mom was not a drug addict herself, but it didn't help that the family all around sold drugs. So it was at every angle, everywhere you turned, it was kind of right there. I started smoking weed when I was 10 years old. I started on Percocets when I was 13, 14 years old. And my grandmother passed away when I was 15. When I lost my grandmother, I went like a sled going down a hill, full speed into an opioid addiction that at the time I didn't know much about it. I knew that there was a lot of doctors that were prescribing a lot of medications, over prescribing medications. I myself witnessed before my grandmother passed away, she was prescribed oxycodones and methadone at the same time. Prescribed them legally from a doctor, prescribed this at the same time. So I have a big pet peeve when it comes to MAT, which is medically assisted treatment, as they call it, because I feel like it's a substitute, one drug for the next drug. Now, if you're going to go to a MAT treatment program and get on the maintenance and then wean yourself off it and be off of the drug, that's one thing. But a lot of these programs are sticking it in these people's heads so much that they're stuck to think that they need this, dependent upon this maintenance drug forever. And I'm not talking about a couple of months. You got people that are on methadone for 5 and 10 years and they're going to get their dose. I mean, they've been clean so long that they go to the clinic and get a lockbox filled with jars of methadone for their daily doses. And me personally, I don't get invited to come and speak into recovery centers because they want me to push MAT. They want me to speak on MAT, and that's something I can't hypocritically do. I'm going to give the tough love, the kind that you don't want to hear, the kind that is involuntary. You might not like how I'm putting it out there, but in reality, they need I heard Senator Buxton saying that involuntary admissions for the addicts. Yes, I can agree that an addict's not going to stop using until they're ready. But I'm telling you what, if somebody had checked my dumb self in and out of rehab every time I slipped up, eventually I would have got it together because I would have got tired of repeating that same cycle. And if I didn't, I'm pretty sure I would have eventually got tired of them having to keep involuntarily putting me in there. But the thing is, it might not work on the first time. It might not work on the second time. But the third or fourth or fifth time, it might actually work. But enabling the addiction is not helping the addiction either. Needle exchanges is not helping the addiction. Vending machines giving out crack pipes and Narcan is not helping the addiction. Someone like myself, I'm a convicted felon. So it's hard to go into schools and speak, but they don't want someone like me to go into schools and speak on drugs because then they have to admit that there's a drug problem within the schools, and they don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, when I was younger, I was getting high in school, literally in school. When I first, I hit the ground running. When you talk about the food truck, I didn't know what I was doing though. You know, I still don't know what I'm doing half the time, and that's okay because I'm willing to still learn. I'm 30 years old. I have a food truck business that I built from nothing, no funding. Nobody gave me money. No rich investor came with their wallet and said, "Here, I'll sponsor you my money." It didn't happen like that. I literally learned how to build a food truck, and I built one. And then after I built it, I hit the ground running, making sure that people were going to see me. You may not like me, but you're going to see me. I'm that person that used to be high with a needle in my arm shooting up heroin. I'm that person that you used to catch at the drug area. I'm that person that was parked at the gas station at Rural Farms in Milford. The Milford cops all surrounded me. I was overdosing in the car with a needle in my arm. That's me. I'm also the same person that came home, got clean, not by me wanting to do it. I went to jail. When I went to jail and I dried out in jail, I knew enough was enough when I came home. I didn't want to go back and play with the devil again. When I was in jail, you went in and you had to dry up from the meds. Like they didn't give you Subutex or methadone in jail. Now they're giving it to them in the prisons. You go to the prison and you can get Subutex in the jail. Like from the prison for you to not be over or withdrawing. My father's incarcerated in Smyrna prison and has been in there for 25 years. 25 years. My dad's doing life without the possibility of parole. It's a really touchy subject for me because I look identical to my dad. Identical. My dad's name's Juan Ortiz, but long story. I got my mom's last name. But when you stand me and my father right next to each other, it's hard to tell which one is which. But I'll tell you what, I've actually tried. I've called up to the prison, tried to get into the prison to speak in Smyrna. They don't call me back to come into the prison. When I tell you I ran it up the chain, I ran it up the chain. Called every person I could call. Had my dad talking to people. What better form of reform is it than to have somebody that's been incarcerated coming in there speaking and his father's sitting on the other side of the wall for life?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When I built my food truck, the first thing I wanted to do was give back to kids. 5 months after opening my truck, I took it to the Cape and Lopez School District and fed over 1,000 kids for free.
Wow. Wow.
The school district didn't even call me to say thank you for doing it, for giving back to the kids. Now, mind you, I didn't do it for the appreciation of the school district. Them kids smiling out there was enough for me. But the thing is, even the 1,000 things that you do good, they'll remember you for the one bad thing you did bad. However way you put it. I got a lot of backlash a few months back because something in my heart. When I tell you it was something randomly, like Pastor Bob said, when God brings you somewhere, he brings you somewhere.
Yeah.
Something randomly in my heart said, Bubba, that's my nickname, Bubba, you need to go feed the veterans. My great-grandfather used to be a veteran. I said, I'm going to go feed the veterans. So I took my food truck. I popped up there, got in contact with the activities director, and I was going there to feed the veterans. God put it in my heart to give back to these people that fought for our country. I was in correspondence with the veterans home. They agreed to have me come there. When I pulled up there to feed the veterans, I'm in the middle of cooking. These two people come out. They tell me I got to shut down and I have to leave, that I can't feed our veterans. That really upset me. It didn't upset me. It infuriated me. I was very upset. I was angered. I went to Facebook right to my live. I started talking about it. And the crazy part is I got a lot of backlash. I wouldn't say backlash. I got a lot of positive feedback from it, but I had a lot of people that used their political standpoint or where their position to kind of threaten me in a way. They literally, they called me up to Dover to the federal building and sat me down in the office and told me about how people could shut down my business. And it's crazy, but they were trying to put me in a chokehold. And as I sat there that day, you know, I kind of felt defeated. I really did. It weighed on me a lot. But I talked to God a lot. See, I had this problem. I always want to put my love in people and put my trust in people. You got to put your trust in God. At the end of the day, my darkest times that I had, God was there when nobody else was. I don't have to be in a temple, 4 walls somewhere to say that I believe in God. I'm a walking testimony in itself. I don't think people take into consideration when I say I was using heroin. I have a needle that's broke off in my arm still from when I was shooting heroin one time. It broke off and the needle was still in my arm. They said they'd do more damage trying to take it out than if they left it in there. I used to shoot up 39 bags of heroin in a shot.
Wow.
39 bags of heroin. When I think about that to where I'm at now, it's hard to believe it.
Yeah.
I can't comprehend what was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. I wasn't worried about anything because I didn't even love myself properly enough to worry about it or to be focused on it or to be willing to get help from it. I didn't see that when I was incarcerated, I was 142 pounds. I'm a big boy. I'm wide. Like, for me to be 142 pounds, I could see my bones on the side of my body. It was tragic almost, but I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the journey that brought me to where I'm at today. It wasn't easy by any point. It wasn't easy at all. I'm going to say recovery outlet choice. I chose the medical marijuana program. A lot of people don't agree with medical marijuana. I'm going to tell you the reason why I agreed with it. Because I knew it was a crutch, so to say. I know myself that I didn't need it. I know that I wasn't addicted to it. At any point in time, I've plenty of times I just stopped randomly without smoking it. It wasn't an addiction. It was an scapegoat for me that I made excuses for why it was okay to myself. Well, I'm not doing the heroin. I'm not smoking crack. I'm not out there drunk on some alcohol. So regardless of me making the choice, the excuses for it, I know myself. I don't need a mind altering drug just to get through life. I don't agree with the wordplay behind recovery that a lot of places use. That's why it's kind of hard for me to get tuned in with the NAAA groups when they sit you down and say, if you fall, we'll catch you. You can't say that. That next bag of heroin could kill me.
Yeah.
There might not be you being there to save me. I tell you, the crazy part about my life is I have family in all angles. Like, I literally, on the black sheep side of the family, I have lawyers. On my mom's side of the family, got from EMTs all the way to registered nurses, all the way to medical assistants. So I myself have had them conversations, like Senator Buxton said, with the EMTs, how they can agree. They stand behind me wholeheartedly with the way that I speak about it. People don't want to agree with the fact that addiction is a lifestyle, which is a choice. That's where I ruffle feathers a lot, because you choose to go see the dope man to buy drugs. You choose to go pick up that drug. You make the choice. You may not like it. You may not be in a sound state of mind. You may be thinking about things, going emotionally crazy on a roller coaster, but you still made the choice to pick up the drug and use. Cancer is a disease. You can't wake up in the morning and say, I don't want cancer no more, and the cancer goes away. It don't work like that. So I've gotten into arguments with nurses over this conversation. And I want to say this. They say that it's a disease because a textbook says that. I say it's not, because of my life that I lived, the journey of the life that I lived. I could take money and go give it to the dope man and get high. Well, the state's taking money and giving it to legal dope men and giving you methadone and Subutex.
It's a business. The
It is.
business of addiction.
It's about the money. Like Pastor Bob said, he's self-funded. They got to raise their own funds, but then they can't even get funding to expand their program or enhance the program that is already shown improvements.
Yeah.
Literally, it's crazy. I could literally write a book with my journey. It's insane. When I was in Georgetown, Sussex Correctional Institution, doing the key program, I did the key and the crest. I was actually in the Morris MCI that he was talking about. When I was in the key program, the supervisor and the director of the key program, I'll not say their names just for whatever reason. I know they follow my Facebook for whatever reason, but they told me I would never be nothing. They told me that I wasn't going to complete anything because I didn't tune into this program that I seen that was not helping people. So I quote unquote failed my way through their programming. I came home, I turned my whole life around. She came home and wound up sleeping with the inmate that was in the program with me and had a kid with him. This was the director of the rehabilitation program in the prison that told me that I wasn't going to be anything. And the same person wound up having a kid with the delinquent, or however you want to say it, inmate that was in there with me. So that it's a hard thing to digest on the addict side, because it's people putting masks on, almost like when you go into some churches. Churches don't want to admit that they push people out of churches. There's people in the churches that will push other people out of the churches by being stuck in their own ways. They have to understand that if you're 50, 60 years old, 70 years old, this 18 to 25, 30-year-old that's coming in has grown up in a different generation than you have lived.
Very true.
So what you may see as this way of life or as okay to your terms is not okay to their terms. People look down at prime example, medical marijuana. People look down at medical marijuana, but they don't look down at the liquor store on every corner.
Yeah.
It's okay to socially drink, even within churches. There's a lot of church folks that are at the bars and at the cookouts hanging out with a case of beer, but nobody talks about how alcoholism can affect people in the same way.
Amen.
I deal with that in my family as well. My dad had alcohol problems. My grandfather has alcohol problems. It's something that it's kind of at all angles, you see. And I know I can talk, boy, I can talk good crazy, but I've learned that through my journey, speaking about the things that are uncomfortable to others to speak about is what makes you different. It makes you yourself. It makes you unique. I don't care if 99 people don't like me. If I plant a seed in one person, plant a seed in one person, it'll grow. It says Jesus left the 99 to go get the one. It's the 1% that people tend to not worry about. Oh, we can fill that seat with somebody else. Well, you don't know, you let that seat fade away and that person crashed out, went through a mental health episode and overdosed and died or committed suicide, felt like they had nobody because you weren't worried about the one. You see what I'm saying? Mental health on both aspects, men and women's mental health, is one of the most underlooked thing or overlooked thing. And a lot of people don't realize how serious mental health is. If you don't treat the mental health, you'll never be able to fix the addiction. Mental health comes before the addiction. Something happened that made somebody feel like, I'm going to feel better if I use this drug, or if I drink this drink, or if I pop this pill, this is going to make me feel better. And that's the hard part about expressing that to people. I get a lot of hatred from it when you talk about these programs that are supposed to help people. Housing. Okay, if you're giving an addict housing, but they can still use living in the housing, what are you fixing? I went and spoke on behalf of the Pallet Village that they wanted to do in Milford.
Mhm.
But then when I heard them speak and say that you can actively use drugs living in the Pallet Village, I was highly against it.
Absolutely.
Highly against it. Because then you're enabling.
You
You're not
absolutely
fixing.
are.
You give me a clean needle and you say, here's a clean needle so you don't use that dirty one. You just enabled my addiction. You look at it as I'm making sure they're using cleanly. I'm looking at it as you just gave me an easier way
Yep.
to get high.
I agree 100%. Absolutely.
So it's a lot for me. Like I said, I could talk a lot, and I know that our time kind of went over a lot already.
That's
You know,
okay.
I'm
Gary,
easily
you
reachable though.
moved me to share something actually on my own self too. We talked a lot about tonight, the choice of addiction and stuff, but there's another side of it, and there's medical addiction as well. And when you mentioned about the church and the way
Your sound went out for me.
sympathetic system disorder. So I have seizures because of my parasympathetic nervous system. And with that disease comes a lot of pain, a lot of different factors involved in it. And I was way overprescribed medication in my 20s. They had me on over 1,000 micromorphine equivalents a day. Combined with benzos. They had me on mood stabilizers. They had me on anti-seizures, which they work similarly. I didn't have a quality of life at all. And my doctors didn't want me getting off of the medication. My pain management doctor told me that I would die if I came off the medication from the seizures. And I just saw that I had no quality of life, and this is not the way God intended for me to live my life. So I, on my own, spent 3 months. My husband is an absolute angel for being by my side through the whole thing. I weaned myself off of all of those medications, and it was not easy, and the withdrawals were very hard. And I thank God every day that I never had the mental aspect of that. I made the decision, this actually isn't helping me. This is actually making my life worse. These medications are actually putting me in a worse mental state. So I never had that mental side of addiction where you just want to. It was all physical for me. But with medical marijuana, I was able to save my life. And things the doctors told me I would never be able to do. I mean, when I talk about how sick I was bedridden. I had to get infusions bi-weekly of ketamine in a facility at a hospital to reset my sympathetic nervous system. That's how sick I was. And medical marijuana saved my life. And I have built a Christian platform. And the only people that I've ever gotten any type of blowback for when I am out there, I make sure every single year, at least once, I share that story a little bit. And I don't usually do it in this type of format. This is actually very hard for me. But the only people that I've ever gotten pushback against are people in my own Christian community. And I think for those of you watching this here tonight, you guys have followed me for quite some time. You tell me you love me, you love what I say, you're so happy I'm doing it. I am somebody that has depended on medical marijuana to save my life. And I haven't had a seizure in 7 years, actually 7.5 years, not one single seizure from that. And I think if nothing is learned from my personal testimony here, because there's been so many amazing testimonies, you can't be so judgmental, because the same people that have given me a hard time about being a medical marijuana patient, like you said, they go to the bar and they sit at home and they drink, and maybe they like whiskey, maybe they like wine, but there has to be a broader view of it. It can't be like that, because I could have very easily heard those responses from people in my own church at the time. And it was hard, and my mom got a lot of flack for it too. But I could have said, oh, the marijuana is so bad, let me go back on this medication, these drugs that the doctors are prescribing, then I just have to go to the pharmacy for it.
Absolutely.
Brian, do you have any kind of follow-up on? Brian, you there?
Sorry, my mic was muted. Thank you, Katie. Thank you for sharing that. It's I've known that you shared it with me before, but thank you for feeling the need to share it with everybody that's watching tonight.
Gary inspired me. He hit a note on that. He's absolutely correct.
Yeah. Gary, I want to let you know, you may have seen me looking at my phone a few seconds ago. I had a chaplain reach out to me who somebody who's a chaplain in the prison system, and they asked me to share their number with you. And they said they're going to see if they can get you into some of the prison systems to talk with them. And they said, hey, I can't promise anything, but I can, I'm going to see what I can do. So you'll find an email once you get off the show inside your email box that has that gentleman's cell phone number as well. And I think that's kind of, you know, one of the main reasons why we wanted to create Reclaim Ground Media was that we want to share stories like yours. We want to share stories like we heard tonight from Katie and from Pastor Bob and from all of the others and from Kristen as well, to share these stories, but connect people with real life people who are on the ground, who are going through these things, whether it was tonight with addiction, or we talked about education and some of the things that are going on, including the violence in our schools and our other things. We want to show not just these talking heads or these, you know, state officials or these people who are supposed to be prominent, but we want to hear people who are going through it themselves, that are in this, that are in the trenches every single day dealing with it. But even further, we want to make sure that people are connecting with each other. So if you heard something tonight that you believe that you can help with, or you have a story you can share, or that you think that these people may be able to help you, that maybe you're going through it and their story inspired you, reach out, connect with these people. This isn't just about Katie and myself and Greg. We want you to reach out to these people, or have these people reach out to you as well. We want to connect our community, because we know that sharing these stories, and when Pastor Bob said, you know, changing the hearts of people is what we are after, because that's what God is after, is changing hearts. And this is one of the ways that we decided that we can start this process here on the first day.
Absolutely. It's all about community. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reclaim community. Community has been something that society has let fall to the wayside. And that is how we get back. That is how we do it, through community.
And I just wanted to say, if anybody following, if they had the time, this amazing guy, Louis Miller, he literally followed me around all last year and did a whole documentary of my food truck journey. If you go to YouTube and you look up Building Bub's Grubs, there's a 10-minute documentary video on there. And awesome. It's absolutely amazing. And when I tell you, prime example, like Brian just said, it's about connecting people. I didn't know this guy from a can of paint. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. He found me on Facebook, and then come to find out, his best friend, who was a very big reporter in Washington, D.C., had overdosed and died. And he wanted to know how that happened. Like, you know what I mean? What happened behind it? What was the reasoning behind it? So he wound up getting connected with me, and he said, look, you know how the older people, they try to play it off like they're not really as big as who they are. But he's like, I'm a retired film director. Nobody special, nothing. When I go to this guy's house, he's got Emmy Awards and Oscar nominated award for literally an Oscar Grammy I'm holding at his house from film directing from Discovery Channel. And so he literally followed me all around, coming to all different setups, shooting different video clips all around the truck to talk about my story. And it's crazy how a complete stranger will come into your life and just documentation like this. He didn't want any money. He could have charged somebody so much money for something like that. And he didn't want any money. It was about getting the story out there. Not being afraid to share your testimony, because you never know who is going through what you went through, or who's struggling, or who's just wanting to talk to somebody. And they may not connect with the person in the suit and tie. It's going to be the person with the tattoos and the fitted hat and the Jordans, and the person you think that's not somebody I would talk to. The person that you think you shouldn't talk to, you probably should. You probably should. My father himself dealt with severe mental health before he committed the murder that put him in jail for the rest of his life. Had he treated the mental health, I feel like he would still be here on that side of things, you know. But he was struggling. And to know that my dad went to jail for this at 28 years old. At 28 years old was my first year with the food truck.
Mm.
So it's showing, like on the side of my truck, the breaking chains symbol with the ribbon. It's about breaking chains. It's showing people that it's not about where you started. It's where you finish. It's the effort that you put in.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
And
Thank you,
Greg
Garrett, so much.
pulled up a little bit of that documentary while you were speaking, and now I definitely need to travel down south and check you out because it looked good.
It is good.
Absolutely.
Trust me. It's very
Absolutely.
good. Next time we have him at the shop, I'll definitely invite you down, Katie. You
I'll be
can,
offended if you don't.
I know you will. I know you will.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Gary. We appreciate you sharing your testimony and you just giving basically you shot it straight. You gave it to us real, and we really appreciate that from you.
Absolutely. If I can ever be of help or of assistance, you reach out, let me know. If you ever want me to join back in, just Brian knows how to reach me, and I'm definitely accessible.
Absolutely.
Thank
We'll
you
take you
so
up on that.
much.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Woo! Brian, that was a good episode. That was such a good, I feel like this is such an important thing. And reading the comments as they're coming in while we're filming this, it really just shows that it actually is. And I'm so glad that we have decided to do a follow-up on this. I saw a couple comments come in just thanking us for taking the time to do another episode. And I'm really excited about that other episode that we have. We really wanted to highlight two people's stories a little bit longer than we were going to. I know we went over our scheduled time here again. We're getting a little bit of a habit of that. But it's so important to have these conversations. So when we do the follow-up, we are going to be talking to two individuals. One who found himself in addiction in high school, similarly to Gary, found himself incarcerated because of it, but completely changed his life, turned it around. Not only started being a big advocate for getting people off of the street and for, finding a hope for drug addiction, but also ended up running for a political office as well. And in addition to that, just to show that, like we've said many, many times here tonight, that addiction doesn't discriminate. It is a demon. It'll pick any host it can find. We will be talking with a preacher's son who, despite having every resource imaginable for him, he found himself in it too. But like the theme of everybody we've highlighted, has completely turned himself around. And I think those stories are going to be very, very important to highlight.
Yeah, somebody said, "Are we going to keep in touch with Senator Eric Buxton?" Yes, we are. I talk with him on a weekly basis. He gives me a call and he says, "What are you thinking about this?" And I'll call him and say, "What are you thinking about that?" So I think his heart is at the right place. He understands that it takes a heart change as well.
Yeah.
Katie, now before we sign off, we have something very important to talk about. We've got something exciting going on tomorrow.
We do.
Yes,
we do. I'm very excited about this, especially as a parent. I am very excited for our special episode that we are going to be doing tomorrow. Now, you guys, that's not going to be live. We're not going to have it live, but we are going to post it right here. We're going to post it to YouTube. We're going to post it to everywhere you get your podcast. And we are going to be having a special episode of putting Christ back in Christmas. Especially, Brian, in this consumerism, capitalism type society we're living in, it's so hard to differentiate between the true reason for the season and kind of what society throws at us.
Everybody?
And
just
sure
wanted
that
to
we're walking a fine line, that we're keeping the focus in what it is about for our children. So I know I have a lot of questions for Pastor Mike, our Reclaim Glen Media faith leader, about just kind of how I navigate it. I feel really bad for Pastor Mike. He's been taking it from me lately. My kids have been asking me a lot of questions, most of which I don't have the answers to. So I'm kind of selfishly putting it off on Pastor Mike. I texted him at 8:00 at night the other night, and I'm like, hey, my kids want to know about dinosaurs and how that fit in the timeline. So don't worry. I told them Pastor Mike would
I'm
know.
going to ask Pastor Mike all the questions that my kids asked me at 8:00 to stay out of going to bed. My 6-year-old asked me about a year ago. He goes, "Hey, Daddy, how do we know that this isn't just a big dream, that we're all just in heaven and we're all dreaming right now?" And I was like, "Okay, I really appreciate your game of trying to, stay out of going to bed, but I'm going to stop you there at existential questions because it's 8:30 at night. And
To be fair,
in the morning.
Very good question.
Yeah, it was an amazing question. Yeah.
Very good question. But next time you just say, I don't know. I'll text Pastor Mike. He'll definitely know, but he's not going to get back to us in time. So
we had a great discussion over breakfast. And
there you go.
I'm going to bring that. I think I'm going to, even though that doesn't quite fit tomorrow, I may lean into just like you and ask every single question I have.
Do it. I'm going to encourage it. I'm the wrong person to run that by because I'm going to say do it. So yes, guys, that will be posted. That'll be posted right here. Be posted to all of our Facebooks. That'll be posted to Reclaimed Ground Media's Facebook. It'll be posted to our YouTube channel. You guys, we are on Spotify. We are on Apple. Wherever you get your podcast at, we are there. So go find us, share us with your friends, your family, even if they're not in Delaware. That's the thing about, I feel like, what we cover. While we do always have a way to bring it back to Delaware, because again, we are so focused on building our community here and strengthening our community here. The topics do not discriminate. The topics are universal and it can apply to anyone. So even if you have loved ones who are not in Delaware, but you feel like they would appreciate the topics that we're covering and the way that we're covering them, make sure you share us. That's how word's going to get around.
Yeah. And the last thing before we leave, Katie and I are always posting daily on our feeds as well, and to Reclaim Ground Media social posts as well. So we really enjoy these Wednesday night shows, but every day you can get breaking news and breaking updates from Mr. 302 and Katie Lazinski, the Spilled Tea, and also Reclaim Ground Media of things that are going up now. And they are short posts to get you engaged in what's going on around the state of Delaware.
Absolutely. And we are going to be pestering Eric Buxton to get back on here now, because I feel like I could just listen to him talk about topics all night. He sounds so just profound in the Texas accent. I could just listen to him talk about whatever. So we'll definitely have him back on here. And he has a lot of interesting things to say about a lot of different topics. So we'll definitely have them. I will be going to check out Bub's Grubs. Make sure you do as well. I'm going to be stalking him now. That looked so delicious. Check out the documentary. Check out Kristen's book. Again, we're going to drop this all in the show notes. Make sure you watch our special episode when we post it here on Putting Christ Back in Christmas. We will have a live audience. We'll be taking, Pastor Mike and Amanda will be taking live questions from the audience. I'll be listening to the answers. And you can find us right here next Wednesday night.
That sounds wonderful. We'll see you all soon.
See ya!
Before you all go, I'm going to say something that Katie and Brian didn't say. If you've gotten something from this podcast, if you found value to what's been going on here, if you think it's helped you think more clearly about the issues, maybe feel more grounded about what's going on with addiction in Delaware, would you consider a donation today to Reclaim Ground Media? That link is scrolling the entire show right here. tinyurl.com RGM support. They are doing great work, Katie and Brian and all the other people behind here. And you can help support this mission of getting these type of messages out to all Delawareans and beyond by donating today. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you.
Reclaim Ground Media, we're taking back the sound, lifting up the truth until the walls come down. Voices for the kingdom, hope in every town. This is where the lost get found. On Reclaim Ground.